is a confidence igniter. Both are doing amazing work. And I sat down with the two of them. We had a lively and interactive session on Giant TV. You're going to love this. A lot of takeaways. Get connected to these people. Let's go check it out. Hi everybody, welcome to Giant TV. I'm Paul Hitchcock, president and founder of Giant Jacks Media. We're helping others to grow and nurture their businesses. I'm very excited for my two guests today. I have Jeff Bauer, who's an incredible Vistage chair working with amazing leaders. We're going to hear from Jeff in a second here. I have Meshell Baker as a chief confidence igniter, high demand across the country, speaking to businesses and groups everywhere, motivating people. And we're going to get into this. Love it. Jeff, I'd like to start out with you. We were just talking about your Vistage groups. Obviously, you and I have talked a lot offline. Tell us a bit about your groups and what you're focused on there.
Sure. And hello, everybody. So I'm a Vistage chair, as Paul said. I've been at this for about 5 years now. I have 4 different groups. I have 2 chief executive groups. I have a key executive group and a trusted advisor group. I look for people who have a growth and a learning mindset, that they understand that's what we all got to do and that's what they want to do. I look for people across industries. I have good industry diversity in my groups right now.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking to expand the industry diversity as well as diversity in general.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Jeff, that with your groups, one of the great things I know about Vistage and talking with you and others is that these leaders are getting into a room once a month and they are opening up, working on their businesses. I know you're processing issues. Do you find that people really are vulnerable when they get in there and let their guard down and make it happen?
Yeah. That's why I look for non-competitive type people. I look for people from different industries. What I often say is we all grew up in an industry and we learned if A happens, you do B.
Yeah.
Someone in another industry learns if A happens, you do X. And a third industry, if A happens, you do G. When the issue you bring to the table is A, all of a sudden you're being pushed out of your comfort zone, because you're being given these concepts that are second nature for other industries, but never the way that you've looked at something. Mm-hmm. And it's forcing you to open up your mindset and take the best across industries, not just grabbing from within your own industry and your own background.
Very interesting. When you're, aside from those monthly meetings where everybody's getting together, you're doing the one-to-ones with each person. What are those like? I mean, is that a Zoom? Are you sitting down with them and, are they just spilling what's on their front burner? How do those go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Typically my one-to-ones are being done on Teams. All my group meetings, which is a full day a month, are all being done in person. In the one-to-one sessions, I have a primer that I encourage my members to look at and update on a monthly basis. It helps us isolate the areas where they're really having challenges so that we can dig in deeper there. We're looking at whatever's going on in their organization. And honestly, sometimes it's a personal issue that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that personal issues show themselves in our work lives. So it's a mix of things that we're going to take a look at. When the members do their prep work and they come with their list of things that we need to talk about, we get a lot deeper.
Yeah. Great. And you have some availability there, Jeff, looking for the right personalities and businesses to come in there?
Absolutely. One of my chief executive groups, I only have 1 open seat. The other chief executive group, I have a number of seats that I'm currently filling, and looking for people, like I say, from diverse industries, diverse backgrounds.
In what
The
areas
the big
geographically? What best areas?
Absolutely. So I generally say within about a 30-mile radius of the greater Hartford area.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I have some outliers. I've got someone down in Guilford. I've got some folks up in Springfield, Massachusetts. My goal is for the monthly meetings so that people aren't driving for ridiculous amounts of time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when one of the outliers is hosting, we're all going to drive a little bit further and it's worth it.
Yeah.
Generally, it's the greater Hartford area.
Yeah, and I want to say to everybody that's listening, Jeff's information and Meshell's is going to be around this video wherever you're watching this, because we stream this everywhere, YouTube, LinkedIn. So maybe it's up here or down here, but for sure get connected to both. And I got to say, if you do talk to Jeff, you're going to find out that he's an avid photographer. I've learned this, and that video running behind him is his video. So I still don't know how you get that going, but it's pretty amazing. It's great. Thanks, Jeff. No, that's awesome. Meshell, got a lot to talk about here, and tell us what you're focused on, and let's dive into this. I really want to hear this.
Yeah. Well, great to be here. Good to see you again, Jeff. And my focus is all around igniting confidence. And what I do is I work with individuals, teams, and organizations, and that's with confidence, imposter, and leadership. And why? I believe it's absolutely necessary. We're in a time where overwhelm, frustration, disengagement in the workplace, and disrespect are at an all-time high. I recently published my monthly blog was just talking about the concept of disrespect and being wrong, and how so many people are entrenched in their feelings instead of focusing on delivering excellence, bypassing those temporary feelings of what the mind is telling you and focusing on the fact that it's not real, it's just a misinterpretation, and simply asking a question, right? And creating an environment or a workplace experience as an employee or as a leader that fosters growth, that fosters collaboration, that fosters accountability. I mean, we are completely capable of human beings of creating anything we desire. Look at how fast technology is advanced in the time, of mankind. However, that doesn't happen when we have people who are frustrated, overwhelmed, fearful, in the workplace. So how can we, and that's what Jeff is doing with his leaders, is helping them to have those conversations so they go back to their organizations and do the same. And what we're seeing now, even with AI is great, but if we don't, do the HI, which is the human intelligence, right, help them with their emotions and with their mindset, we're in great trouble, right? We're not gonna have anybody to work in these incredible organizations that these leaders are creating.
Yeah, no, Meshell, and when you go in, when you see that, when employees are disengaged, why is that? Is it because they're not liking their job, or the atmosphere hasn't been created there by the leadership that motivates them to be engaged? I mean, what are you finding when you go into businesses?
It's a lot of different reasons. The work that I do around is helping people be accountable to, one of the things I experienced. So we'll, say it's, we'll call it widget company X, for example. And when I'm doing a presentation and I'm speaking to the organization, I'm reminding the employee that your bad day is not widget company X's fault. Right.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Mm-hmm.
sign up, they're not here to have you give a good day. That's on you, because when you wake up every day, your decision is what your day will become. And helping, leaders to start to foster and have conversations that maybe that are doing a deeper dive. It's not your fault, and it's absolutely our responsibility as leaders to help these people, because there's no magical pool of people anywhere. Right? You got what you got. And when you help them, you actually have loyalty, you have more camaraderie, you have more community, more creativity. There's so much more collaboration and things that will happen in the workplace. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing you can do. And what it does is it creates a culture that then invites more people of excellence. So if your culture is not inviting this level of people, then it's up to you to foster it, create it, cultivate it, so then it will, right? It's not like you can get rid of those people who are bad and get more people. It's the culture that, so it's both parties' responsibility. So this is where it's not just the employer and it's not just the employee. This is where we are all accountable to create.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as you're talking, I know, Jeff, this comes up with Vistage quite a bit, is having the right person in the right seat. That is, comes out a lot at Vistage. So, Meshell, how does that, and Jeff, you might want to chime in here too. What if you don't have the right people in the right seat? I mean, how do you get around that? What do you do, and how, what's the process there for correcting that?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in, Jeff, if you
Yeah.
like. And for
Yeah,
me,
that's fine. I'll go after you.
I challenge the term the right and wrong, see, because that's two ways, right? We talked about the growth mindset. Growth mindset understand there's infinite possibilities and outcomes, right? So when he talked about, A, X, and G, right? When you start culminating the different variables, you're going to get a lot of variables. What if there's a best person for the role? Right? So if you think best person, then wrong and right creates fear, because
Yeah.
there's the right person that person is the wrong person, then that's an environment where you're scared to get it wrong. If you're the best person, then you're going to always operate and do the best you possibly can. You're going to seek excellence, and you'll be more willing to be accountable to do things that don't necessarily go as planned, and still you can discuss why, how you can do it better the next time, or what you learn from that experience that would also be helpful to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that right and wrong it's actually a bit limiting, because you think about right and wrong conversations. Does anybody like to be wrong?
Yeah.
No.
No. Great. Yeah. Good point.
Fear. So
Yeah.
I think about what is the best person
Mm-hmm.
that role, because then it changes the way you are actually interpreting that individual. You're interpreting that role. You're, communicating with that person about how they fit into that role as well.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, what do you think?
I have comments on two things that you said. The first is, while I agree with that last statement wholeheartedly, there's a piece that we haven't considered, and that is, what are the values of the organization, and does the individual match the values of the organization? If they don't match the values of the organization, kick them off the bus. We don't even have anything to talk about. Once we have a values match, then I agree with what you're saying. We have a blank canvas. We can work on that blank canvas together and find the right roles, bring out your strengths, and be able to leverage you within the organization. So there, I would agree with you fully, as long as we add the piece about the values. There was another point I wanted to make, and I'm having a senior moment.
Well, those
It'll come
issues.
back to you. And I love what he
Yeah.
said, because
Yeah.
that, again, and I'm in a complete agreement, because the values, right? That's the
Yeah.
best fit, right? And that's incredible when you think about people who, and I always tell people, there's no such thing as a bad job. That is a miserable life. When you think you're taking a bad job, you have just made an agreement for a miserable life, because as soon as you wake up, you're thinking about that bad job. As you prepare
Yeah.
for, as you go to work, when you're at work, and when you leave work. You cannot have an incredible life when you say yes to a bad job, because you think it's the money is going to help your family. Your family will not get anyone that's loving. You are incapable of being a loving human being at the end of that long day of existing in that bad mindset.
Fully agree. And the other piece you had talked about earlier was the culture of an organization. The piece that I want to augment that with is creating a winning culture is going to have a massive impact on your retention. You're not going to have people looking at other opportunities if they love the culture that they're working in. So if they're going to get a similar culture in your company as they're going to get in your competitor down the street, now we're simply going to look at, where am I going to earn the most money? Where am I going to get the better benefits? If your culture trumps the culture of your competitor down the street, why would they even talk to them?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you say culture, Jeff, when you bring that up, and Meshell too, what do you mean by culture? I mean, is it the fun you're having in the office? Is it the way people are interacting? Who sets the tone? I mean, what culture is such a, could be many things. What actually is a good culture? What's happening in a good culture?
So I'm going to start by answering your question. Yes, it's all the above plus a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
The best example that I can think of is something that one of our Vistage speakers talked about. Um, he came in, he said that he had done a study and he was at the Ritz-Carlton. And if you walk into a Ritz-Carlton and you ask, can you tell me where the men's room is? They're not going to tell you, go down the hallway, make the third right, and it's on your left-hand side. They're going to say, let me show you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to walk you down there and show you where it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Creating a culture where everybody is happy at what they do and they understand your values, they understand your purpose, they understand how you feel about your customers, and they're all going to do something similar to guarantee that your customers are happy and they're enjoying what they're doing. That's going to create the culture that's going to trump everything else.
Love it. Yeah, it's a great example. Meshell?
I would just agree. So we're just going to say yes, yes, and more of that. And what I believe and why I love, having these conversations with Vistage chairs is that that's what they foster, right? When you're in this community. So what happens is collective as a mindset, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we are, Jim Rohn, the people we spend the most time with. So the culture of Vistage is to foster helping owners and founders create that in their workplaces, which then trickles down to those, that employee engagement and experience for clients and everyone. So I just agree with everything he said. And again, love that Vistage is one of those organizations that's helping, owners to create that for their own businesses to thrive.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And Meshell, when you go in there, when you engage with a company and there's a problem there, what does that engagement look like? What are you actually doing with them? Are you meeting with leadership initially, then the team, or what happens there?
Yes. So we go through that initial experience of, we look at what the experience is going to be. So there's an assessment and alignment and the outcome. So what are the deliverables they want to actually establish by working with me? And then we go into that next step would be established. So what are the outcomes? So if it's going to be a talk, it's going to be one set of outcomes. If it's a workshop, or if it's coaching, right? If we're actually going to take a group or a team through the program that I do, which is, that coaching for the unstoppable confidence. What is that going to look like? Setting those milestone and markers. And then I talk to them about what their expectations are. And then we have, set dates and we move forward. So the goal is to see what is it you want your individuals to experience. If it's, your participants in the talk or the workshop or the coaching, what is it that you want them to experience and how we're going to get there? And again, it's talks, it's workshops, and it's coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, does that come up a lot in your group meetings or one-to-ones, is employee issues? And I mean, maybe that's just obvious to say that, but does it come up quite a bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We do a lot of issue processing around staff issues, staff retention, staff hiring. And, sometimes it's the business leaders don't recognize the impact that a non-performer in their team is having.
Mm-hmm.
And really getting them to recognize the impact of that non-performer so that they can turn around the entire organization.
Yeah.
I would add to that, you actually have toxic top performers, right? Sometimes people think that a top performer is it's great, but if they're toxic and they're not collaborative, they're not, engaging in community, taking their skill sets and really being a top performer who's also leading other people, to perform well, that's toxic.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny you said it.
Jeff
Yeah.
said that'll impact the organization as well.
I would also add to that one that I've seen in some cases, and we've been able to change, is when a top leader has a scarcity mindset. And it can be a scarcity mindset about competition. It can be a scarcity mindset about being able to hire people and getting them to switch from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset opens up unbelievable potential.
What's a scarcity mindset?
Scarcity mindset would be, I really can't find a replacement for Johnny. There's no one in the marketplace that could do Johnny's job. Yeah, I know Johnny's not performing well, but I got to keep him because I'll never find a good replacement for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you turn that around and say there are thousands of people out there in the workforce, believe that you're going to find the right person and deal with Johnny based on what Johnny's performance is. And inevitably, it gives them the comfort to be able to move on from Johnny, and they do, in fact, find a replacement. On the other side, scarcity versus abundance, I had a member who, in a specific industry, would not want to step into the room with a competitor in the industry because we're all going after the same customers and there aren't enough customers out there.
Yeah.
In that individual's case, I turned him around to an abundance mindset. Once or twice a week, he gets together with competitors and he recognizes there are things they can do that he can't and things he can do that they can't. And they give each other business leads. And his business has grown by spending more time with his competitors and getting to know them better.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, listen, we could talk about this forever. I'm fascinated by this topic. I want to thank everyone for listening here. Meshell, Jeff, thank you so much. Very fascinating conversation. And again, information is around here. Get connected. And thank you very much. Appreciate both of you being here.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Meshell.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Paul.